I'm going to cut right to the chase before I ask for any kind of just blanket statement. There's a lot of people out there, and I get it. I watched every play of this game. I was very invested in this game. It was a great football game. Uh, that would say that Clemson blew this game more than Florida State won this game.
You know, that's one of those. Okay, fair, fine. Let's just say that. Let's go with that. Okay, what about 2 years ago when Jermaine Johnson strip sacked DJ Ukulele and Florida State's up and then Florida State blows the makes some plays that doesn't give them the opportunity to win? Or what about last season when Florida State literally just went absent offensively, but then their defense cut it on, which is the similar thing. In fact, Mark, it was the craziest thing. And this is what hating is not for you. Hating is a really bad look. And what happens is when you don't look at this stuff as a football fan, and Mark, you're a football fan as well as I am, and I had a blast because it was a good game. Go and look, when you get a chance, go look at the box score so you can see in the team stats from last year's game. You want to know what you're going to see? You're going to see a Florida State that beat Clemson in every statistical category except for what mattered. You're going to see a team that was that wasn't penalized as much. Florida State had less penalties, had more yards, had I think we might have won time of possession. Bottom line is, if you read the box score, you would think Florida State should have won that game, except for the total overall score. So what happens when you look at this one? You read the box score. Oh, and we heard a new term that I've never heard, and this is what I like and I hate. The middle eighth. Oh my God, if I would have heard that term anymore. Clemson, we focus on the last 4 minutes of the second quarter and the first 4 minutes of the third quarter, and that's really when you transition and you win the game. Well, guess what Florida State won this year? Florida State won the middle eighth. Florida State got their asses whooping every statistical category except for the one that mattered. Florida State was more penalized than Clemson was. Florida State, what they did was, when it works for you, nobody went back and said that, oh, Florida State could be, even with NC State, Florida State could have just as easily been 11-1 as they were 9-3 when the season ended. Nobody ever says that when you're on the other side of it. It's only when it doesn't work in your favor. That is non-masculine energy. That is a loser's mentality. Clemson lost the game. Whether you want to say they lost it because they gave it to Florida State, somebody had to be on the other side of it. Nobody told Dabo to call somebody my age who wasn't good enough to kick for him when he was in school to come home and leave his family after kicking the ball 3 times to come and kick a game-winning field goal. That's part of the game. Nobody told him to not recruit a kicker. Everybody in their right mind who has the 50 there, they literally have 56 blue chip players to Florida State's 27. I don't want to hear it. They lost in Death Valley at home on a marvelous day with everybody there, all the energy. And Cade Klubnik played a damn good football game too. The best game he's played all year. And you know what Clemson did? Actually, forget that. Forget all the other stuff. Clemson lost that football game the same way they lost to the Duke. You turned the ball over more than the other team, and you didn't play as physical when it came down time to it. Klubnik got caught, should have been caught on numerous sacks like that blitz. Florida State got real close. One time when he threw the touchdown to Will Shipley, me and my brother CJ Wilson did a great breakdown. Both of us were actually there at the game. Shipley runs an angle route. It was a great route. They caught us napping. Linebacker, for whatever reason, followed the slot. Azare Thomas tried to go get the running back, which was a mismatch just by alignment. But when I tell you, Klubnik throws the ball without even seeing him open, like he's getting lit up as he's throwing the ball. He just threw the ball and just knew, praying somebody's going to be there. That's just as much luck as you could say as anything else. But Cade he was getting his behind hit a lot. He's tough as nails. But what I'm saying, it finally hit when Kalen DeLoach did it. It was something that was a long time coming. And that happened. I see Clemson fans talking about referee, and there was some egregious ones, but man, there was some egregious holds on the other side. That's the game of football. The field goal kick that Fitzpatrick kicked. There's a rule in NCAA. You can't jump over somebody. You can't jump over a lineman. Their guy literally jumped over the lineman. If that with the referee right there, guess what happens, Clemson fan, if that's called? Game changer. Completely different game. But as my great granddaddy, Gordon Watkins used to say, if ifs were a fifth, we'd all be drunk. Or as his son Gordon said, if my mama had a pair, she'd be my daddy. And so the reality is none of that happened. Florida State did win, and it was a great game. And I love it. And that's what it almost made me change my mind of Clemson being a rival. And one thing, even I wanted to go in a space, and while and the difference between Florida State fans and a lot of other people is every part of me wanted to go back and trash talk because some of the fans made it a little bit different than what it has been. This isn't like Miami. We don't look at Clemson like Miami. We don't look at Clemson like Florida. It's actually just been a really, I hate when Florida State fans say this is a rival. It's not a rivalry if you never win. If you minus the last 8 years, Florida State dominated this. This was never a rivalry. It's only a rival, and I don't like it being called a rivalry because they beat us the last 7 years. Now, if we go back and forth, like 2 here, 1 here, something like that, then fine, we'll call it that. But it was never a rivalry until we couldn't beat Clemson. That's not fair to Clemson. They just was whooping our ass, and we just couldn't get a hold of it. But it's always been cordial until it wasn't, and that's when people feel like it's slipping away. And I wanted to go into one of the spaces with one of the guys who kind of came in was being disrespectful, but I felt like that's not right. It would poo-poo on a great game. Okay, Clemson played well. Will Shipley played well. Is it Maffa? I think that's the running back's name.
Maffa. Yep.
Played well. Trotter is everything that we needed to do that we thought he was. I would love to have Trotter with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I would love to draft Nate Wiggins. Nate Wiggins did a really, really good job. And I think sometimes we got to just step back and just say, you know what we saw was worth every little piece of us getting up early, getting some oatmeal, getting grits without sugar. Don't you put sugar in your grits. You put butter and cheese in them things with some crispy bacon. And we were sitting there and we were watching this game as a family. And the Clemson fans that were there, I have never seen more nicer people in my life at a game. I have never been to Death Valley as a fan. I've only been there as a player. That was my first time going. It was an incredible atmosphere. I even like the way their student section does their Clemson chant. The tradition of running down that hill, I couldn't do it. Because maybe if I was in better shape, I could do it. But that hill is a lot. That is a hell of a slant, man. But like just seeing those guys run down, seeing those guys do different things, man. I think Clemson was just was dope, and I think they're the best 2-2 team in the nation. I think even though Syracuse typically gives them a little bit more trouble consistently, that's why I used to tell them, don't judge us based on Boston College because y'all play Syracuse terribly every year. Dino Babers has your number. Like he knows how to make the game tougher than what it is, and he's even beat you with Trevor Lawrence. I think they're going to come in and they're going to shock people when it comes to the end. And what's going to suck for them is the new rules. Is that because right now they need both us and Duke to lose 2 games. Actually, lose 3 games because we have the head-to-head, and they're already. And technically, what world will we ever? What bizarre world is it where Clemson is at the bottom of the ACC?
Yeah, and basically out of it the last week of September because, like you say, they need Duke to lose 3 times. They need North Carolina to lose twice, and then it would be whatever the tiebreaker. They need Miami to lose twice, and they need to run the table. Yeah, they need a lot to happen.
And a lot could. Miami has one thing about Miami is, which is interesting, their schedule, like because they play A&M is good. I didn't think they would beat A&M. The other 3 games they should have won those, but they have 8 straight conference games. And the difference between conference games and other games is styles make fights. Like we all play each other every year. Like, so you know what a Miami team is. You know these guys. You don't need to go find secrets from somebody else. You've played them the last few years. And I think that's going to be as my guy when I do the bowl selection show, it's going to be a tough road to hoe to win 8 in a row. So a lot of things could happen in Clemson's favor. And the way that this year is going, man, nothing would shock me. This has been a crazy year, crazy 4 weeks of 5 weeks with week 0 of college football.
Yeah, it all depends for me how that line is delivered. Like, Ohio State missed a kick that would have sent them to the national championship game.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that both ways in regards to that's part of the game. They lost the game. Let's take
Mm-hmm.
officiating out of any controversial game, because I hate when the officials have to decide a game. So let's take any officiating, and I really don't believe officiating had anything to do with this game. And I know that we could go into that, and some people have, but I don't see the officials really being involved in terms of deciding this game. I think it was just, did Clemson blow it more than Florida State won it? So I don't have an issue with the Clemson fans saying, man, this really hurts. If we would have done that, they could point to about 18 different things. But when they go through the whole process of possibly saying, they don't deserve to win, we deserve to win, kind of thing. Well, you didn't deserve to win, because all of that is part of football. So much like Ohio State didn't deserve to beat Georgia. Now it's excruciating. It's close. Mm-hmm. It's that close. And you could say, man, wish something else happened. One other play was different. And you could say the same thing about this game. But the team that deserved to win certainly won the game. And like you say, that's just a curious decision by Dabo to bring some guy off the street to kick. He's not kicking against FAU with a 5-touchdown lead to get him warmed up and have him prove something. He's kicking against Florida State, the most important game of the year.
As a fan base that's had good kickers screw up big games, like I make a lot of jokes about kickers, but it's really one of the most like when I'm playing, there's 11 guys. Like when I was playing, there's 22 guys on the field at the same time that everybody's looking at who has the ball. A lot of things you make them. If you drop a pass or you fumble, like it gets. But for the most part, every play all eyes aren't on you. But when it's a game-winning kick, all eyes are on you. Whew, it is a lot of pressure that comes with that. So like I typically would want to have a guy who's had at least a little bit, like at least actively doing it. Like go put your freshman in there. Go put a soccer play. Go do something else. That's what I would suggest. But I mean, I believe he made all those field goals. They were happy about that, but his extra point, excuse me. But I think that was just the thing. But bigger than that, we went into overtime. So Florida State scored on the second play of overtime. Went up top. Unfortunately, should have probably scored on their last drive. Nate Wiggins made a phenomenal play. Might have been a little hole, but whatever. Made a phenomenal play. That's when he got banged up. A lot of people joke and say ball don't lie. Probably should have scored right then. Didn't score. Nate Wiggins is out. They go attack the guy who was in really good position, and it works. But then what Clemson fans got to remember, you had 4 straight plays where I, as a lover of college football and especially offense, when I'm watching Florida State on defense, I hate to say it like this because Florida State fans might not like it. I root for our defense because it's my school. I look at the defense for how the offense can exploit them. Like, what are you doing or what are we trying to accomplish here that's going to make us this a chess match? And I'll say this, instead of being mad at Florida State fans for cheering, you should be mad at Dabo or whoever the offense. I don't think that's linked. That's not Riley calling that offense. Riley is trying to call what Dabo wants. If Dabo lets Riley just call what he wants, you'll see a more explosive offense. You can kind of see that, like you when you watch the guy enough, and people don't know that Lincoln Riley's little brother. Like when you've seen it enough, you kind of know what it's supposed to look like. And what I'm looking at is a guy who's hesitating and trying to fit what he does in a box. And what he needs to let him do is what he hired him to do, and let him flourish.